welcome to another episode of the podcast, Control or Be Controlled. This podcast is designed to help you start thinking differently and take control of your life. I remain your humble host, Darlington Obuka. Today's guest is Loretta Zuchetti, a speaker and author who helps women break free from the identities they were conditioned to live in so they can step into who they truly are. Her journey is anything but ordinary. Raised in Italy in an environment that taught her to be submissive, Loretta went on to rebuild her life multiple times, eventually moving to the United States, rising to the top performing roles with companies like Xerox and Apple, and leading in high pressure corporate environments. But despite the internal success, she reached a point where she had to choose between fitting into expectations or being true to herself. That decision reshaped everything. Today, Loretta's work focuses on identity, self-trust, and conscious choice, helping people recognize the unconscious patterns that shape their lives and giving them the tools to rewrite their story. Loretta, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Loretta. Please, before we get into it, can you please introduce yourself to my audience?
Sure. I'm Lauretta Zucchetti. In Italian, we say Zucchetti, and I'm Italian, born in Italy, but immigrated to the United States in my early 20s. And I don't particularly like the chronological introduction. I did this, I was born then, etc., because they can be pretty boring. I'd rather say that what characterized me from the beginning has always been my desire to free myself from suffering, number one, and from imposition that made no sense to me, whether it was adults pushing me and taking me places that I didn't want to go to, knowing that I had gifts and abilities that I couldn't express because I was in the wrong environment. So I have always looked for the way out and the way to succeed on my own terms. In California, for instance, I knew I could. Maybe I was less of a woman and more of a worker, but at least I could prove that I was capable. And when I went there, within a short time, I became a top sales rep for Xerox, followed by a few years at Apple in sales, where I did very well as well. But it was all choices, It wasn't like someone hired me. I went there and got what I wanted. So, of course, I had some times where things didn't work the way I wanted. And those were the times when I had to take more education, I should say, about the inner side of who I was. And then there is the second part of my life where I became more spiritual.
So thank you very much. Thank you so much for your introduction, Loretta. Loretta, so let's get into it. I have some questions here for you, and I'm sure my audience also want to get to know the answers to these questions as well. So how does early conditioning continue to shape and limit women's choices later in life?
Well, this is true for most people, I believe. If you have parents, for instance, or caretakers who tell you you're stupid, for instance, you end up living a life where you think you are stupid. But I was lucky enough I didn't have parents who said that to me, by the way, but I did have an abusive childhood. And I lived a life of so far where I had to constantly challenge the deep unconscious belief that maybe I'm not as good as I think I am, but I do know that we all have abilities that go beyond what our conscious mind believes, because I have proven it, and not just with the companies I worked with. I've proven it by overcoming very, very challenging obstacles. So, but it is a conditioning that we all can have, and we have to be able to overcome and question it and be aware of who we truly are deep inside.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is this. Was there a defining moment when you realize your past didn't have to determine your future? And how can others reach that point as well?
Well, when I lost a baby at birth is when everything stopped for me the way it was before. I had to change direction completely, and I quit my job and went back to school for a degree in women's studies and a master in psychology, transpersonal psychology, because I realized that to continue doing things without being too aware of who I was inside and why I was doing what I was doing, because the conditioning I suffered from was it was my brand, you can say, doing things for others so that they would like me and they would accept me. And I realized that was so detrimental to myself, and that one of the main things that we are all required to do in life is to learn to love ourselves. And that was why I lost my baby. So it just a huge life lesson, and that was my big turning point.
Thank you very much. The next one I have here is, what mindset shifts helped you move from survival mode into high performance and success?
It comes and goes, Survival was earlier on, and that is no longer the case. But it's little wins, with yourself and with the outside world that I think allows a person to feel happy, content, serene, tranquil, whatever, tranquil. Survival, when you're on survival, you're just thinking about what am I going to eat and where am I going to sleep. And that was part of my life as well. So happiness in those years didn't really belong. But later on, happiness came in, and then it was like, okay, I'm challenged, but then I'm also happy, a little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why do so many women remain in patterns they have clearly outgrown?
I think women in general have a tougher time with changing the status quo, because women tend to wanting to help and to give as opposed to think for themselves. That's what going to school for a degree in women's studies taught me. And I really believe that that's part of the problem. And not that you have to become selfish, but you have to balance life in a way that you can also fulfill your potential, not just be not a slave, but someone that does everything for everyone else. And that's what I did for the longest time.
Okay, so do you believe it's ever too late to reinvent yourself? And what would you say to someone who feels like they have missed their moment?
I always say you have a lot more capacities than you think you do. In the most difficult times, you just have to believe it and do what feels you can do and do it. And then things will start happening. There was one time when I was divorced and pretty much broke, and I didn't have a job. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? And that's when I called the vice president of Apple International, and I went to see him. And a week later, I had a job.
How can women begin to rebuild their self-worth after years of conditioning or self-doubt?
I don't know if it's women. It could be men as well, don't you think? I think men are taught not to go inward as much, but women have the tendency of questioning, their inner world and why they do the things they do, and learn about themselves. But I think women are possibly more capable of define or challenging their past conditioning.
So when you talk about rewriting your story, what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, I wrote a book which is about to be published, a memoir, And it focuses on how the journey went from not even knowing I existed and believing I didn't exist to learning that I existed and I love myself. And that's really how I plan on helping other women too, to come to life. Was that the question?
So thank you, Loretta. You have almost exhausted all my questions as well. So I also have some few ones here. Based on your journey, how would you define real confidence?
Sorry, Darlington, I didn't hear it.
I said, based on your journey, how
Yeah.
would you define real confidence?
My level of confidence. It's I would say about 90%. Sometimes I have self doubts, like everybody else, I guess. But I think I have a lot of faith. I believe that we're here to learn and we're protected. There is a God, and we're protected by by entities that we don't even see. But that we're here to learn, and we're just our souls are eternal, and so I don't really think that it breaks. It's the You could make all kinds of mistakes and still be okay. That's what I'm trying to say, because it is all about that. You learn, you make mistakes, you get back on the horse, and you start again. Every day is a new day. It really is. And it's possible to continue to improve just a little at a time. It doesn't have to be a whole change, radical change. I have had the chance to move across continents and do all kinds of things, but it doesn't have to be like that. It could be just a little at a time. So I'm confident that it will continue this way, because it's about learning and improving and becoming a better human being all the time.
Okay, Loretta, thank you very much for that. You mentioned about faith, and I wanted to know, and I'm sure the audience would like to know as well. What role did faith play in your transformation, and how can others lean on it during their own journey? Faith.
First of all, it's a very, very strong faith that that I'm here to learn and to be the most honest, sincere, true to myself, loyal person that I can be. That is the strongest characteristic about myself that I've always followed through. I've never been able to say one tiny bit of a lie or steal or anything, but not because I'm religious or anything like that. It's just that my soul has always needed to be as pure as possible. And by doing that, I think I've really captured the essence of improving and asking for help. And it's also, when I lost my baby, I became very humble and very asking for help. And I got a master in transpersonal psychology, which is really spiritual psychology. So I learned a lot about the soul and spirituality, and that has become defined my transformation, because I transformed from the inside out and became the person, became more real to myself, inside and out, basically. Before, I used my brain to be successful, and I knew I could do it, so I did it. And I became successful by society standards, right? Successful, traveling, making money, blah, 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 blah. But then my desire to be successful was from the inside out. Say, okay, I don't care about that anymore. I want to be a better person and do everything I can to achieve that. And that was my true transformation. And by acting that way, anything you want will come through, because you are in tune with the universe, with the energy that feeds us, call it God, call it the universe, but you are connected, and you're no longer just a flailing thing out there trying to gain, recognition and money and objects, or you're just more vibrate at a different level.
Okay, thank you very much. From what I can understand is you cannot achieve this transformation outside of God.
You can, but the ego takes over. You know what the ego is, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, the ego will make you believe that you are a god yourself, and then before too long, you just lose. You lose direction, and you start doing what you see some people do,
So you mentioned success, society success, and success in God. So are you saying there is no real success outside of God?
Success can be defined in many ways. I mean, you can be, someone who mediocre means and still be successful because you have a happy family. You have kids and you're happy. That's success. It depends what you believe success is. Right now, for me, success is to have love in my life for myself and for others, and vice versa. That's success for me. When you're younger, you might think success is making a lot of money. But again, I've done that, and there was a time when I thought, oh yeah, I don't need anybody or anything. And then I lost it all, including a child. And that's when you find God.
So this is my final question for you, Loretta. If you hadn't lost it all, do you think you would have gone down this path you are right now?
No. It's a predestined journey.
Okay.
It was meant to be this way. I really do.
So from what I can understand from your answer now, most of the things that happen to us that we might not like are predestined, and we should learn to accept them and use them as a foil for our transformation.
Well, I studied for many years the role of the soul, and feel free to just cut this part off from the recording if you like, because it's different from. But I do believe that when we pass on the other side and we do a life review, we decide if we want to come back or not, and in which role we want to come back to learn more. And I think that we choose how hard of a life we want to have or how easy, because we're given free will in that regard. Because this is a play, Shakespeare knew this was a play. In fact, he kept making fun of everything that happened, because this is not our real home. It's like we're playing and we're learning.
Okay, thank you very much. Honestly, I would want this episode to continue for longer, more than this. That I would want to hear from you as well. So, but for now, I'm just going to wrap it up now, and hopefully we can have another time together as well, if you don't mind. What I need you to do is now tell us more about your book. I think you have a book that is forthcoming. More about your book and how my audience can connect with you and reach out to you as well.
My book is called Painted Red, and I'm having my editor do the final check. I should be out by the fall. And I have a website with my name, laurettazucchetti.com. But I can also be reached at laurettazucchetti@gmail.com. Pretty soon I will have a lot more visibility on social media, so it'll be easier to get hold of me. I'm preparing an offer on to help women return to their true self. So that also will be part of my offering.
So thank you very much once again. Thank you. I'm glad the audience were able to have the opportunity to be able to listen to you today. Thank you again. Thank you once again. It's my pleasure to have you around.
Nice to talk to you.
This has been a very powerful and deeply honest conversation. Thank you for sharing your story and reminding us that who we were taught to be doesn't have to define who we become. To everyone who is listening right now, the moment you start telling yourself the truth is the moment your life can begin to change. Until next time, take control or be controlled. See you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.